Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Well, all morning in the news, we've been covering the Nixon-Cuomo debate. Yesterday, the big news was the Marjorie Byrnes, Assemblyman Joe Arrigo race. We reached out to both. The first one we heard back from was Assembly candidate Republican Marjorie Byrnes. As soon as we hear from Assemblyman Arrigo, we'll get him right on. Marjorie Byrnes, thanks for joining us.
Well, good morning. I really appreciate you having me on this morning.
Well, Marjorie Byrnes, you strongly object to a mailer that the Arrigo campaign sent out, which accused you of bribery. Can you tell us? We've talked about this before. It's been in the news. It's been in the talk shows. But refresh the listeners' memories as to what happened. There was a $20,000 check to the then Livingston County Conservative chairman, Jason McGuire. And tell us about that.
Yeah, back on May 24th of this year, I was endorsed by the Livingston County Conservative Party. After that, and with the Republican endorsement, I started to look to what communication firm could help me in managing this campaign, because it's a pretty big district, all the way from Pittsford all the way down to the city of Hornell. Certainly larger than myself or the really great campaign people working with me could really handle realistically, crossing three county lines. So I interviewed a firm out of Binghamton, and they gave me a cost for what I was looking for of $20,000. And I just didn't feel comfortable with the gentleman because I didn't think they knew our issues, that they knew me and how I felt about things. So I decided not to retain them. And on June 21st, I asked Mr. McGuire if he would coordinate the campaign, and he agreed to do it, and I did. I told him I'd pay you exactly what the firm from Binghamton wanted, and he was actually going to do more work for me, be hands-on, help me with issues, just totally absorbed and involved with the campaign. I mean, it was a win-win. So I retained him. Reported it in my financial disclosure. On June 12th, he wrote the state committee when they were getting ready to decide who the conservative candidate would be. And he emailed every state committee member, including the ones in Monroe and Steuben, and told them, in full disclosure, you should know that I'm assuming the campaign manager responsibilities for the Byrnes campaign. And, felt that we had done everything. I know we did everything legally. And so I hired him to be my campaign consultant.
And him being Jason McGuire. Is McGuire still on your campaign?
Oh, absolutely. And also, contrary to the mailing, which implies that the state chair dumped him as the regional vice chair, that is a total lie. The state chair, Michael Long, on July 24th, wrote a letter to Mr. McGuire copying me in and said that he understands that there was a misunderstanding about what was said about the full disclosure. And he thought that Jason did a great job by taking a principled stand by returning the money. And he said he will not accept his resignation as a regional vice chair, and was proud to have me as the conservative candidate for November, which I'm really, really proud to have.
Now, Arnie Rothschild, the attorney who's with the Joe Arrigo campaign, Assemblyman Arrigo campaign, Arnie Rothschild says that what was in the mailer is true, and that that there's an investigation going on by the state controller's office. That was in the news yesterday. I wanted to give you a chance to respond.
Oh, absolutely. I thank you for the opportunity. First of all, what's in the mailer and what's going out in the robocalls is horribly misleading and incorrect. We filed a complaint with the New York State Board of Elections about the mailing specifically, citing a number of things that were misleading or flat-out lies. I mentioned the one that clearly implies that Mr. McGuire was forced to step down as the regional vice chair, and that is not true. In fact, he continues to be the regional vice chair in good standing.
Of the Conservative Party.
Of the Conservative Party. The mailing indicates that returning the money was an admission of guilt, and that is absolutely not the case. When Mr. McGuire wrote the letter to Mr. Long, he specifically said it was not admission of guilt, and the two of us went on another radio program in the Rochester area where he was very specific about that. He felt that as a pastor and knowing what the controversy was, that in good conscience, that it should be returned, and he continues to do all the work he was doing before as a volunteer. And there's a number of other respects also. You know, they sent poor Joe into the Livingston County DA's office to file a complaint. And I'm sure this isn't Joe. This is his handlers. This is Arnie Rothschild and his handlers. They know once you go in and a complaint has to be taken. Once the complaint's taken, it's, oh, my God, she's under investigation. And it develops a world of its own, where now they go, oh, my God, she's under investigation for bribery. When it was all a PR stunt that they did themselves, sending Joe in to do the complaint, which is utterly unfounded. The problem, like most bureaucracies, is I fear it won't be resolved so that people know what BS it is until after the primary. That's going to be the unfortunate part, is that they're going to run around with all this horrible, misleading information, and then, September 22nd, it'll come out that, oh, no, they did everything totally properly. Winning seems to be the only key to what his handlers want to do. It's not ethics. It's not talking about issues. It's not reaching out to the voters. It's not talking to the people. It's just take down somebody who has had an incredibly great reputation in the New York State court system as a prosecutor, as a judge, as a law clerk. I've just been blessed by the fact that I've been known and renowned for how hardworking and honest and ethical I have been in order to just win an election. And that's the sad part. But the people, we're not going to endorse in Livingston and Monroe and Steuben. And when we're knocking on doors, people don't care about it. They haven't mentioned the mailing. They probably won't mention the robocalls. If they do, I'll tell them what's going on.
Marjorie Byrnes, our guest this morning, the Republican hopeful in the Assembly race for the 133rd Assembly District, the Joe Arrigo seat right now. Now, while Arrigo's been making a big issue out of the check to Jason McGuire, you've made a big issue of Assemblyman Arrigo's 2010 endorsement of then candidate for governor, Attorney General Andrew Cuomo. Again, that was back in 2010. Your thoughts on that?
Well, ours is at least true. My goodness, back in October of 2010, Joe Arrigo stood next to Cuomo, shook his hand. He endorsed him for the position of governor. He wrote him on October 14th, of that year, he wrote him a check for $1,000 for his gubernatorial election campaign. And I absolutely think these are things that the voters should know about. One of the problems and one of the huge differences between myself and Mr. Arrigo is I want to be a voice for this district in Albany. And we're not getting a voice. You kind of got to wonder if it's because he endorsed Cuomo that he won't stand up for us against Cuomo.
Talking with Marjorie Byrnes, live on Newsmaker show this morning. Going to take a break and then check in with Rob for the forecast. When we get back, we're going to talk about the issues and what's the difference between you, Marjorie Byrnes, and Assemblyman Joe Arrigo on the issues and policy, etc. Stay with us here on Newsmaker.
Football season is here. Listen live as we broadcast Cornell Red Raiders football. Starting Friday, August 31st, and every Friday night starting at 7:30 p.m. You can catch all the Hornell High School action. Listen live on AM 1480 WLEA. Hear the game on WLEA.net or listen live on your mobile device by downloading the Littletown Living app for free. Don't miss a single Hornell Red Raider game. Thanks for listening to Hornell Red Raider football live on AM 1480 WLEA and WLEA.net.
Those markers are set. There's 4 huge to go here. Down by
throws it now
in the shotgun formation.
And that'll be good for another Red Raider touchdown.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carroll. One of his big issues for New York State politics is how the name the Tappan Zee Bridge was changed to the Mario Cuomo Bridge. And that came up last night in the Cuomo-Nixon debate, Rob.
I don't know where this idea came along that everybody who serves in office deserves a bridge or a building or a courtroom or something named after them.
Well, what Cynthia Nixon went on to say there in the clip, but we didn't get to that part of it, was that this was one of those things that Cuomo kind of snuck through late at night kind of deal.
Whether it happened out in the light or it happened in the dark, I don't think it should have happened at all. You know, it should have been something that took place when he wasn't in office rather than when he was. Taking a look at the forecast, Brian, we've got a lot of cloudiness out there this morning. It's associated with some cooler air that's coming in. We're going to name this cold front today after my father. Looks like we could see another sprinkler shower out there, but right now the radar is showing very little way of precipitation in our area. Most of it's now moved east of the Finger Lakes. We're going to be 70 to 75 today. Sunset tonight, 7:47. The sun came up this morning at 6:34. Tonight, clouds will linger across the region. We're 50 to 55. It does get brighter and better tomorrow. It'll turn partly sunny, though we could see a shower or a thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon. Front's going to be stalled off to our south, 75 to 80. Chance of a shower or storm tomorrow night, 60 to 65. Saturday, it turns partly sunny. There could be a shower or a thunderstorm. Temperatures on Saturday around 80, and we're partly sunny with the risk of afternoon thunderstorm Sunday, a little bit warmer as well, Brian.
Rob Carroll won't forgive Governor Andrew Cuomo for naming the Tappan Zee Bridge the Mario Cuomo Bridge. We have us on our live line with us this morning, Marjorie Byrnes, who's running for state assembly. Marjorie, what's the difference? What separates you from Joe Arrigo when voters go to the voting booth there on the primary day, September 13th? What's the difference between you and Arrigo?
Well, I think the differences are becoming more and more clear. First, I'm not part of the Albany swamp. I'm not part of the Good Old Boys Network. I'm going to be an independent thinker. And that's one of the reasons I think you see a lot of this stuff coming out, is that the parties that be don't want somebody that'll be in there reaching out to the voters, making independent decisions based upon facts and information, and I will. And also, you know, we kind of nicknamed Joe No-Show Joe. He isn't anywhere. He does nothing, as far as I'm concerned, but collect his paycheck. He rarely attends any community forums. He rarely is seen speaking in public. He doesn't speak for us at all on the assembly floor. He has never gotten up on the assembly floor and argued for any of the causes that are important to this district. And he refuses to get involved with any debate where issues can be discussed. I mean, this district is so in need of a voice. There are 150 assembly representatives throughout the state of New York. Only 43 of them are Republican. We're less than a third of the members of the assembly. We're not going to affect a lot of change and make policy decisions. That's just the reality. So what we need is to be able to speak up, to be able to advocate, and to be out there in the forefront, making sure that everyone else in the state knows issues that are important to the people of the 133rd District. And I'll do that. I'm not going to go to Albany and sit on my hands and watch the sun go up and the sun go down every day. I'm going to be there for the people that live here.
Marjorie Byrnes, what you seem to be talking about is the pork barrel legislation, and that brings us to that issue. The assemblyman who was in there before, Assemblyman Joe Arrigo, was Bill Nojay. Bill Nojay, both on his show and as an assemblyman, spoke out against the concept of bringing the pork barrel, in other words, the grants and the funds home to the district. It was a principle of Nojay's. He was against that kind of thing. Where do you stand on that, Marjorie?
Well, I really do think it depends on a case-by-case basis. There are certainly circumstances where grants or money that might be available through different funding sources is important to bring home. We certainly need as much as possible to develop businesses and economic growth, which has been fleeing this area, to get it back in. So we can't just totally turn a blind eye to whatever might be out there for certain things. But again, everything has to be looked at a case-by-case basis. And there's a lot of other issues, too. I mean, we got schools and farms and businesses, Second Amendment rights. This state is just full of very, very important issues that need to be addressed in Albany. And one of the things I regret is that Mr. Arrigo won't come out and debate me. He refuses to debate me. I have a question for you. I know you've asked me a couple. Would you be willing to host a debate?
That would be fine. If you and Assemblyman Arrigo want to do a debate on our station here, WLEA, that would be fine.
Fantastic. Let him know, because the only way, and if you debate any issue, I don't care. We can talk about my hiring Mr. McGuire to be my political consultant. I've got no problems with that at all. And we can also talk about Mr. Arrigo endorsing Governor Cuomo and giving him a grant. We can talk about any issue at any time. And I will make sure today, right when I get off the radio with you, that we send out that invitation and let them know that you are available, because the only way for the voters to make an informed decision is not from the horse crap that's going on through robocalls in the mail, but by listening and watching the two of us and seeing who do they think will be the person to go to Albany, represent them, fight for them, and bring honor back to this district. And I think that's the only way it could be done. And for whatever reason, No-Show Joe doesn't want to come out and play.
We're speaking live with Marjorie Byrnes, the Republican Assembly opponent of Assemblyman Joe Arrigo. We're down to the last couple of minutes. Marjorie Byrnes, did you have any final thoughts?
Well, I just want to make sure that your listeners know that I'm absolutely proud, incredibly proud, to be the conservative candidate in November for the 133rd Assembly District. No matter what is being spread around, which is false, it does not at all detract from how glad and proud I am. I worked for it. I sent emails, and I called every member of the state committee. I answered any questions they had about policies and my positions on issues of importance to them. Mr. McGuire went to the meeting in New York and advocated for me, disclosing that he was my campaign manager. Joe did nothing. Again, no show. Nobody from Monroe or Stu Benoit, and nobody from Joe's camp went. And I did get the vote unanimously. The committee felt that he was a placeholder. He always said he was a placeholder after Bill Nojay's death. Now is the time to move on to the future, and that's what the New York State Conservative Party believes, and that's why they endorsed me, and that's what the Livingston County Republican Party believed when they endorsed me. And I will be absolutely proud, after I win the Republican primary, to be able to consolidate both of those lines for the November election, and in January 1st, get on to Albany and take care of business.
Marjorie Byrnes, I want to thank you very much for coming on live with us this morning here on the Newsmaker Show.
Thank you. I appreciate your courtesies.
It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell.